All right. Well, good morning, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting in a coffee shop, nice and cozy next to the fire here. I know like everybody across the country is like 95 degrees below zero, but it's nice and warm right here.
Yeah, you got it good then.
Are you guys experiencing the negative 332 below degree temperatures, or are you getting away from that?
We did. Yeah, we did. It's a heat wave. It's supposed to hit 40 today here. So, woo.
Yeah, yeah, we've been in the 30s, and I feel there's no way you can complain about it, especially considering we're in
Right,
Colorado and everybody expects us to be the freezer box of America.
right.
Well, so we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk some association world stuff. You, of course, are the CEO for the Oklahoma Association of Realtors, a state association. You haven't always been at the state level. I maybe want to start there. You made the transition in the last year or so to a state level position from a local position. What was that like, and how much thought went into that for you in terms of leaving the local to go to the state level?
Well, it's been exactly 1 year now, and it has flown by. So, I ran a local association for about 4 years in Springfield, Missouri. And have you ever had one of those moments where you just find your fit? I was in the real estate world prior to that, and for about 12 to 13 years, and then took on the association management thing because I was sitting on the board of directors for the local association. And once I got into that position, I loved it. And so I just kept wanting to do more. And then this position opened up with Oklahoma, and I went for it, gave it a shot. So it was exactly a year ago. The transition went very smoothly. It worked out for both my family and myself, and I love what I'm doing on the state level.
Yeah, that family piece is something that you have to like think about, I would imagine, because you can't just pick up and leave and go to an entire different state without the family aspects fitting and being in alignment. What to talk a little bit about that part of it and how much of the decision making process that was.
Well, I'll tell you how we handled it. So I've been married to Ty. It'll be 20 years this year. I was a baby when we got married. And so last year at this time, our boys, which they're 17 and 14 now. So last year at this time, they were in the 10th grade and the 7th grade. And when we were making this decision, and we always have very open conversations in our family. And we decided that what was good for us and what the decision was that I wanted to take this job. And if I was offered this job, I was going to take it. However, it'd be a big move and a transition. So we took the boys to dinner. And my youngest, who is very much like me and a very much, hey, I got to have all this mapped out. I have to have all this planned out. He said, we offered a couple of options. We said, we want to include you in this decision. However, Dad and I have made this decision that if I am offered the job, I'm going to take the job. But to include you in the decision, you've got a couple of opportunities here. One, you can stay here in Springfield with Dad and finish out the school year because it was right in the middle of the school year. And you can finish out the school year, and we will just meet up on the weekends together and do that together. And my youngest immediately sat back at the table, and he's like, no, we're not doing that. He says, we're not doing that at all. I'm not going to live without Mom only during the week, only on the weekends. So Ty and I kind of look at each other, and we're like, okay, where's this coming from? So then my oldest, Jake, he says to me, he says, Mom, do you really want this job? And I said, I do. And my youngest son goes, I guess we're all moving to Oklahoma then. So it was an all or nothing thing. And it was a family decision that we made together. We were very clear as the parents what we wanted to do. However, the options for getting there, we wanted to leave it up to them on how they wanted to make that happen. So it was good. It worked out.
Of course, everybody takes their association job, whether it be local or state, and they think they're going to be there forever. But the realities are this is a pretty transient industry. And so if you enter into the association world, the concept of traveling or moving somewhere for a job opportunity is significant. And so that's something. What would you tell others who maybe are just newer getting into the association world, how they need to kind of think about that career growth and the potential for moving, and how you kind of think about that as you look at your career arc?
Well, I think in any position that you're in, whether it be an AE, a staff person, or or any job whatsoever, a true leader is always always going to be thinking about their replacement. Good, bad, or indifferent. Yes, we all want to be where we're going to be forever and ever, and we want to sit tight and be comfortable where we are. I get that. But a good, true leader should always be looking at what's next. And when part of looking at what's next is looking at how you're going to replace yourself. So if you're going to replace yourself, the best thing that you can start doing is training either someone on your staff, or training, someone else that is good for the position, mentoring another AE that always find somebody to replace yourself, but know that somebody on the other side who's a good leader that you're probably going to follow is wanting to train you. So keep that in mind too, and have an open mindset of you're not only training and mentoring others, but there are others that are training and mentoring you without you even knowing it. So, everybody loves to be consistent, and everybody loves to be secure in where they are. And but keep your head down, do your job while you're there. So I guess I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here for a minute. As soon as I say, always be looking ahead and finding your replacement, but at the same time too, keep your head down and do your job. Don't be constantly looking ahead and going, oh, what's next, what's bigger, what's better. What you've got right in front of you is your task, your job, and that's what whatever you had previous to this is what got you where you are today. And so in thinking this through, and again, I guess I'm kind of talking out loud here, Clint, so bear with me.
Well, I think that's what we're supposed to do here today, so that works out.
Okay, good. Good. So I think a lot of this is, I love what I do, and I'm going to stay focused on my job. If I'm focused on my job, keep your head down and do your job. The next step's going to come naturally. Be focused on what you are, be present where you are, be focused on what you're doing for your association and the legacy you're creating for that, while choosing other people that you can mentor to carry on your legacy. But at the same time too, be open to any possibility. And moving or relocating states isn't an option for everyone. It's not. But too of what other industries are out there. What other industries are out there? What other jobs are out there? I always say, I'm never afraid to lose my job because there's always something I can do. I mean, there's always something you can do. There's so much opportunity in this world that, but that doesn't mean, oh, I'm afraid, I'm never afraid to lose my job. I can do whatever I want. No, as long as I keep my head down and do my job and the task that's in front of me, you're going to go places.
Yeah. Or, in my case, if you can't do, then you consult, right?
But you're doing a good job at it. So
the biggest difference between doing a state and a local, what was it for you? I think as I looked at it, and I've had different offerings to look at state level jobs and those types of things, and I guess for me, I always kind of looked at it. I felt like at the state level, you get a little further removed from the day-to-day member, and I always wondered how I would deal with that. Obviously, that's one difference, but what are some of the other differences between being at that local level and now being at the state?
The biggest thing with the biggest difference with the local and state level is the members aren't coming into your office every day or calling you every day. Now they are coming in because we're still a member-run organization, but the local boards are the local point of entry. So the members go with whomever they are, whoever their local association is. So you get a lot of phone calls to the local association from members. Everything from, I can't log on to my MLS, to I don't know where to pay dues. When they're calling the state association, they're calling because they have an advocacy issue that needs to be looked at. They're calling because they need the state support on something, or they're calling us because they've confused us with the local association. So you don't have that member everyday support calls, if you will, calling in. So that's the biggest immediate difference that I noticed on the state level. The state level is focused way more on advocacy and what's going on in your state legislature than your local is. Now, your local is concerned with what's going on at the city council and on the local level, of course, but the focus is definitely more on advocacy on the state level, which I personally love. You know, and on the local level, you're focused a lot on the MLS and the database stuff and the, you know, the things that are going on the local.
What do you miss most about being a local?
Ooh.
Or is there anything you're like, the heck with it? I'm glad I'm not taking those calls.
Well, yeah, of course. I think, you know, the calls, you kind of do miss the calls. I do miss the MLS. So the short answer to your question is I do miss the MLS, but that's kind of my techie girl geek side going, oh, I loved dealing with all that data stuff. And, you know, I did like that part. But at the same time too, on the state level, and you're still doing the work of the realtor organization. So, I mean, association executive roles, no matter the industry, are all the same. You're focused on what's happening financially, you're focused what's happening strategically, and you're focused on making sure that you've got a staff that's keeping this machine well oiled. So there's so many similarities there, no matter if you're a local or a state association executive. It's just that the objectives and the strategic plans are a little beefier in one area versus another. And that's the difference there, because like I said, your strategic plan is pretty beefed up on the local level for the MLS and the, you know, the things there. On the state level, we do, you know, the advocacy piece, but we also do professional standards. We do professional standards administration for all of our locals. Local association executives love that. They want the state to take it because, so I guess in exchange, you take the MLS support calls and I'll take the, you know, the ethics complaint calls. So fair deal.
Yeah, that is a fair trade. That's in Colorado is that same way, and I can say that was one of the services that I valued most. Is it gave, I think, an air of confidence to everybody involved in that professionalism too. That it wasn't like so internal that, you know, there was favoritism towards the industry over the client in those instances. And then when you have industry folks, there's that sense of, well, do I really want to air all of my dirty laundry locally and trust that it, you know, that it's not going to get out there because of the process. So to me, it's a better overall process for everyone involved. So that's cool. And so you have that aspect. What else about the state have you loved transitioning away from the local?
Ironically, well, I say ironically, I don't know if it's ironic or not. What I have loved is being a support to the local associations. Mm-hmm. You know, I came from Missouri, and Missouri is an amazing state. They've got it really good with their state and local association relationships. And Oklahoma does too. We are continuing to build that up. But visiting the local association executives, and when they come to me and they say, "Oh my goodness, you are never going to believe what my board president said," I'm like, no. I've been there and I know that. Here, come here. Come sit by me.
Yeah, I am going to believe it.
This is a safe space. You know, offering suggestions or working through issues and problems that local AEs have, and just being a support to them, saying, hey, I get it. I totally get it. Here's some options that you can do. I love that part of my job. I love being a support to those local AEs and saying, hey, what kind of initiatives are you guys working on that the state can support you on? You know, I love building that camaraderie among the local AEs and saying, hey, we're going to give you guys this information first before we send it out to the membership so that you know how to answer those questions when your members call. Keeping that dialogue open with them I really like that part of the job.
So as I work with a lot of state associations doing strategic planning, there's this constant question of who is our customer or our client, or who do we serve, and a lot of times that comes down, do we do direct to member, or are we here to serve the local associations? What's your thoughts on that philosophy, and how much of that is maybe influenced by the fact that you were a local AE and you can identify with some of those aspects?
I will tell you, and I personally think that my opinion of this isn't always the most popular opinion. I think that the state association, that their client is the local board. Now, most people would say, but the members are paying state association dues, and you're right. But my job and any state association's job is to fill a gap or fill a hole where services are not being offered to our members. So I kind of take that as, if there is a gap in benefits or services to the membership as a whole, the state's job is to find a way to fill that gap. And if it means that I have to provide a class or a service or a technology or something for that member to do their job, that's my job. Now, if I have a local association that is doing the same thing in trying to fill that hole, there's no sense in both of us trying to compete and do that together. So therefore, my job is to support the local board, which is the local point of entry for our members. My job is to support that local board in getting that task done. So I don't want to compete with my local boards because I say often, and to sound cliche, it takes a village to run this association. It's not just me. It's not just the association president. It's not just one person. And no one person of an association can make a unilateral decision to just change things or do something. It takes a village. It takes a village to run the association. So it takes a village of the state association staff supporting the local association staff so that they can support the members. So call it the circle of life, call it, call it this crazy village. And I guess I'm the village idiot that's trying to keep it all together, right? So,
as long as you know it, that's half the battle.
There you go. I can own that one.
So one of the other aspects that you mentioned just briefly is that you also did transition from being the member and a part of the board into then the association executive side. That sometimes can create interesting dialogues, because honestly, in the association executive world, there are those who look to come over because it's their passion and it fits. And I think there are some that just see what we do as association executives and say, well, that's a lot easier and it's a consistent paycheck and I can do that. And so was there some aspect that you feel like you had to justify yourself initially in the AE circle coming over from being on the broker side?
The short answer is yes, there was. I got to tell you, again, in owning it, as we're supposed to do this year, in owning it, I will tell you, yeah, when I walked into the AE role as a local AE in 2012, I was like, yeah, I've been a real estate broker. I can handle this. I'm a realtor. I know what you do. I serve on the board. I think every realtor probably thinks that at one point. And I had a few rude awakenings that first year, and I didn't feel like I had to prove myself among my AE peers, because I went into it with my AE peers as more, I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for. Maybe it was a humble approach to say, okay, tell me what I'm missing here, because it looks so easy on the outside, but I'm not feeling it. So help me. And I just asked questions. And that's how I made those connections with those friends. Yourself, how many times did I call you and say, hey, what should I be doing here? Or what was that product you used? Or what, you find the people that are doing it well, and you seek them out and you ask them those questions and you say, hey, okay, what am I doing? So I will own up to and admit, yes, I thought it was going to, there's a lot, and those jobs should not be taken lightly in saying, oh, anyone can do it. It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of studying, a lot of researching, and just bearing down and doing your job.
Yeah, and I think so much of that is that there are instances that AEs have seen where good AEs were displaced by realtors that thought they could do it better, or just yes. Oh well, we don't need them anymore. So I always, that's always an interesting one. I will tell you, whenever I immediately am introduced to a new AE that was a former realtor, it's definitely okay. Let's see which one you are. Why are you here?
You do, yeah. You do have to work. If you are coming over from the realtor side, it can be done. At least I hope it can. At this point, maybe it's too late to kind of decide that, but no, it can be done. But you do have to kind of shift your mindset. You have to look at it and go, okay, you have to jump in, humble yourself and say, okay, it's not as easy as it looks. You know, not just anybody can step in. But at the same time too, you know, those AEs, give the realtors a chance that do make a career change. Give them a chance and try to help them. But you're right, you have to kind of determine which kind of realtor / AE are you? Are you the type that's going to come in and say, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing? Or are you the type that's going to stay in and say, let me be part of your team?
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk, speaking of a team, I mean, you're now managing a large staff, and I know you a little bit, and I know that you're a great leader, but you do it with a soft voice and a gentle kind of approach, and that's maybe not my style so much. I'm a little more direct and very passionate. How is that for you? I mean, and especially when moving to a new organization, a large organization, in terms of setting the culture and internally creating the entity that you wanted to, as a new person coming in, and doing it kind of more in that softer approach, because that's just who you are. That's your style. But what's that been like? Yeah.
I might surprise you a little bit.
Okay.
You know, the biggest thing and I'm going to tell you, I had a lot of staff turnover when I took on the job. There was a lot of staff turnover, but that comes with the territory, in that anytime there's a new CEO coming in, a new AE, new leadership, there's gonna be some turnover. It's natural, it happens, and it's part of it. My approach is probably a little more direct than you think, but my approach is this policy, because I'm not going to stray from policy. Now, if you've got a good set of policies in place and you say, okay, here's the general rule of thumb: everybody shows up for work at 8 o'clock. I let these guys show up at 8:30. You show up for work, you work 8 to 5, you get a 1-hour lunch, and this is what it is. Now, if you're going to come strolling in here at 8:15 and you're going to kind of do when you want, leave when you want, you know, there's some flexibility that I can allow for that. As long as the job's getting done, great. Let's make sure the job's getting done and that someone's here answering the phones. If you start taking advantage of me, I'm going to pull that little policy book out that says you have to be here from 8 to 5. Be consistent no matter what you decide to do. So if you're going to be consistent and say, okay, I'm going to be a little bit flexible here and you're getting the job done, then great. Go, you know, take off 15 minutes early, fine. I'm cool with that, you know. But at the same time too, don't take advantage of me. If you're not getting your job done, you're not getting this done, I'm gonna throw the book at you and say, you know, here's what the policy says and this is what it is. Now show up or I'll write you up. Now, that's the direct approach. But if you have consistent meetings with your staff, get them to buy into what the vision is here and give them that leeway to do their job. You give them the direction and let them carry it out, as long as it's within that direction in the budget. Let them carry it out. They're going to do things that drive you crazy. They're going to do things that you say, oh, I can do it better, or I would have done it totally different. They're going to do that. But is it really worth the fight? Now, Clint, I'm talking here and I'm going to say, yes, all of this is very real, and that's how I think and feel. Has it taken me a while to get to that place? Yes, it has. I'm a control freak mutant on the inside.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Totally. It's taken me a long time to see that. And do I struggle with it still to this day? Heck yeah, I do. I'm human. I make mistakes, but I also look at it as, I need to be training these people, these people, I don't mean it that way. I need to be training my staff to be my team. I need them to have my back, but I need to have their back too. So if there's something that's not working for them, I need to know that. So coming back to that and rounding it out, consistency is key. If you're consistent with your policies, you're consistent with meeting with your staff, you're consistent with developing your staff, you're consistent with, you know, making them great, they will make you great.
I always say that, and when I'm talking with folks, that consistency equals comfort, and ultimately comfort allows for trust and for, opportunities that you don't get if you don't provide that consistency to begin with. And so I very much agree with you. What in terms of trying to create that consistency, and what is your vision for your internal culture, for your staff culture? What is it that you want it to be?
The internal vision, I can throw a bunch of cliche words out here and go, oh, we want to be trustworthy. We want to be, we want to be strategic in how we plan things out. Really, we are a team. We operate as a team. And again, it is very as simple as, I will make you great, and in return, you make me great. We all look great. I mean, this association looks great. The internal staff culture, you can argue the point of, do you be friends with your staff? Do you not be friends with your staff? I call every single one of these people my friend. They are my friends. I would do anything for them. I guess what the best way to sum it up is, if they have a good work-life balance, then they will be happy and ready to come to work, and they feel motivated. They've got to feel motivated. If I have a good work-life balance, I'm going to come in here and feel that work and life are meshing well. They know what's going on in my life. I know what's going on in their life, and work and priorities, everything shifts together. So it comes together. So
yeah. I want to switch up a little bit. You mentioned friendship, and I do know, again, this about you, that's something that's really important to you. And I know you have some really strong friendships around the country. What's that been like in terms of how you've forged those friendships, and what they've meant to you, not only personally but professionally, as you've been in this thing now for about 5 years?
How I look at my friendships, quality over quantity. But it can't be a one-sided quality. I care very deeply about every single one of my friends that I call my friends. And if I have a friend who is struggling with her work, like let's say I have a fellow association executive and she's struggling with her staff, you call her up and you ask her, say, hey, how was your day today? And just let her talk. Let her talk, because you know what? She's going to return that favor when you need to talk. And I'm very fortunate that I have a couple of very close girlfriends like that. And, I have friends all around. I know that I could call. But at the same time, I hope they feel that they could call me if they ever needed anything. So.
Yeah, I know you and Teresa in particular, just the friendship that you've had, and with her leaving the business, that's interesting. I wonder how those friendships, translate beyond the association circles, when you obviously do your national travels and you could just spend time with these folks.
Yes.
And you see them at conferences, but it extends beyond the professional capacity, doesn't it?
Speaking of Teresa Hatton, she is an amazing friend. The hardest thing I had with Teresa when she was making her career changes and everything, the hardest struggle that I had with Teresa was begging her not to go. Because she had such a wonderful opportunity in front of her, but yet the selfish side of me was like, please don't leave me. What are we going to talk about? And then I realized friendship is so much deeper than being AEs together. We have a lot in common. And I want my friend to succeed, and I want my friend to go do great things. And she is, and she's amazing. She's going to be amazing at whatever she does. But the thing about Teresa was, the hardest part in all of that was not only keeping some of it a secret when she would, say, it was just, here's what I'm thinking about, and then you can't tell anybody, but, but at the same time too, begging or not inserting my opinion in that, saying, no, that's a bad idea. You don't want to do that, when it's really actually a great opportunity.
Right. And you're trying not to be selfish about, just don't leave me, like you were saying. Culture is a big thing for me, and now traveling around the country, I get to see different, regionalized cultures and how they get integrated into the association. And you've spent a good majority of your time in the Midwest. What do you think is different about being an association executive in the Midwest versus maybe being out on the East or the West coasts, and what the expectations are, and maybe some of even the approaches you have to take given the overall regional culture?
Well, obviously, I've never worked on the East or West Coast in that position before. It's been Missouri and Oklahoma, and I was born in Nebraska. So if that tells you anything, I mean, I'm a Midwest girl through and through. But I think that no matter where you go, a good leader can adapt to that culture. East or West, if they're harder, stricter, faster, it doesn't matter. Learn to adapt to that culture because that's who they are. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not indifferent. It is. It's just who they are and what it is. It's almost kind of like that saying, "It is what it is." So learn to adapt. My Midwest style isn't any better than, we'll pick on Teresa again, Teresa's Eastern Eastern style. The personalities of the memberships in the Midwest are different than those on the East or West Coast, just because of that culture. But all the more reason to develop good friendships with people from all over the country, because I know that I've learned a lot from you about what Colorado style is. Well, then again, we all know what Colorado style is, right?
Don't assume that all of Colorado is like me. So that might be a falsehood. But yeah.
But that style and that culture is, you get to know that in your friends, and you love and appreciate who your friends are, and you get to know those styles. So I think I could adapt no matter where I went. I think I could adapt, but I'll tell you that the Midwest, you'd adapt if you came here because they're good people.
I have a bit of a potty mouth. I think that I've learned as I travel in the Midwestern portion of the world that I have to restrain myself from being me through and through.
Oh, Clint, you don't know us Midwesterners at all, do you?
What do you think the greatest strength of the culture and the work ethic and just, this, and there's a strong sense of when you get into the Midwest, like, you're there. What do you think is the greatest strength, and how does that help your association?
It's a pride in where they're from. I will tell you, the one thing that I did not experience as much in Missouri, just the state as a general, not necessarily the association, but the state as a general. When I moved to Oklahoma, there is an Oklahoma sense of pride here that is, you can feel it in the air. We've gone to a couple of concerts here in Oklahoma City, and you get into that concert arena, or you go to an Oklahoma City Thunder basketball game, or even just go to the Oklahoma Sooners football game that they've had. That we've done all of this, and I tell my family all the time, I'm like, do you guys feel that Oklahoma sense of pride that these people get? They love where they live. They're proud of where they live. They're proud of where they're from. They're proud of what we can do. There is a sense of pride here. And I'm going to tell you, Oklahoma as a state, we're broke. We're broke. We are a kind of a mess at the legislature this session. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on, and but yet they still love their state, and they're going to fix it, and they're going to make it great. So it's
a
good place to live.
I read a story when you were, maybe it was on your social media page, I can't remember, but when you first moved there, you did go and you toured the bombing memorial site and took that in. How much did that immediately begin to engage you in the community, and how important was it for you to understand and know what an impact that tragedy had on that community?
You feel a connection to it immediately. So the Oklahoma City bombing happened on April 19th, 1995. I was a junior in high school in Springfield, Missouri, and which is only about 4.5 hours from Oklahoma City. So Springfield and Oklahoma City are not far. But I think that just like the 9/11 bombings, everybody has a connection to that. Everybody has a sense of pride when they are there. It's the memorial down here in Oklahoma City is beautiful. I never saw it until we moved here in 2016, and that is when seeing that for the first time, you kind of go, you just go, wow, there, you feel connected immediately to your city. You know, there's a good sense of pride. And I will recommend too, there was a documentary that came out on the Oklahoma City bombing on Netflix this year, just this year. Great documentary. If you ever have a moment, watch it. It's good. You'll see, you'll feel
Awesome.
that sense of pride that Oklahoma has.
So you've touched a lot on the advocacy piece, and that's something that ultimately was, as I understand it, one of the big reasons you did come to the association world is that passion. I know you did a lot locally and now are engaged at the state legislature. What do you think the importance of advocacy is in this new world of the realtor world in particular, where the National Association of Realtors is emphasizing it through the core standards and all these other things? But to me, it's always been the greatest value because it's the one thing that we do that no one else does, is this advocacy piece. But what has been like for you to move from that local level then to the state, as you were talking about, where maybe you have some difficult issues that you're taking on, and how important is advocacy?
Going kind of a different route in answering your question here, that was a difficult thing for me to learn in this first year. You know, I took the job here in the middle of December. The legislature opens the first Monday in February, so I had really only been on the job, actually physically living in Oklahoma for a month prior to the session opening up. And when it did open up, I had to learn who the legislators are. Plus, I had to learn a membership of 11,000 people, and I was struggling with just remembering the names of my executive committee. It was like so much new people, new everything all at once. I kind of compared it to, have you ever seen that movie, The Devil Wears Prada? And the little assistant is learning, she's learning her job, and she has to go to the benefit, and she says, and the other assistant says to her, she says, you need to learn all of these names by tonight. And she says, I have to learn all these people's names? And she says, don't be silly, this one too. And she adds another book on top of this. That's how I felt that first month. I was like, I have to learn all these people and this too. So that was a big, big struggle for me. But I did realize that what I did was I relied very heavily on those 11,000 Oklahoma realtors that were showing up at the, not all 11,000, but the bulk of the members that were showing up. I was relying on them to be one voice. And that is the one thing I can agree with the most when it comes to advocacy and the realtors' involvement, is the one voice thing. And there's arguments to both sides of this, but when you have 1.3 million members nationwide, that's a lot of voices that can be heard. Our problem as the association is we have to do a better job of educating these members of how this affects their business. They'll come down to the Capitol. They'll show up at our Capitol conference. We had 400 people show up at our Capitol conference in February of 2017. And the year before, we only had about 85. So I call that a big win. But there were some big issues that we had educated our members on. One of them was like the homebuyer savings account. We also had a piece of legislation that we passed last year on team and group names and how those are to be handled. We also had an e-notary one, a bill on e-notary and trying to get e-notary to be legal in the state of Oklahoma. So there were some issues that affected our members and how they do business day in, day out. So we just educated our members, told them why this is important to them, and said, now get your butt down to the Capitol and tell our legislators that. And sure enough, 400 people show up, and they're there telling our legislators, hey, these are the 3 issues that are very important to Oklahoma realtors. And you know, we got most of it passed. The other ones we kind of pulled off and waited till the next part of the session. But we're going forward on those. So we're making progress. But if we can get that unified voice, that's the biggest thing that I love about the Realtor organization is you're the largest trade organization in the nation. You're, you know, you're one of the largest PACs, both on the state level and on the national level. Oklahoma is the 3rd largest PAC. have a lot of voices. We have some money behind us. Phone and listen to us when we want to tell you what our issues are. So please listen to us. If not, we'll come knocking on your door and we'll sit in your office and tell you what our issues are. We're just asking that you pay attention to us because we have a whole lot of people that this is affecting. So I love it when that voice comes together, and that's probably the biggest thing that I love about the advocacy piece.
I spent some time recently.
I also like getting stuff done.
Yeah, I spent some time recently in Iowa, and they did the first-time home buyers as well. And so there's a lot of momentum. It's a really a positive and thing to capture the emotion from. How are you following up with that? Because that's an easy one to get 400 people because they can kind of get behind that. It's not as controversial. It's just doing good for the right reasons and with the right focus. How are you planning to capitalize on that, and how do you take that energy into maybe some of those more controversial advocacy items where maybe not 100% of your membership can so easily get on board?
Sure. Well, first we tempt them with ice cream. That's really what we do. I'm not kidding. At our Capitol Conference this year is February 13th. And a tradition of the Oklahoma Realtors is that after that Capitol Conference, we go up to the second floor on the rotunda and we serve ice cream to anybody who's in that Capitol on that day. Our leadership team dons the OAR aprons, and we have the whole ice cream set up, all laid out. And I mean, people are lined up around that rotunda and they are ready to get that ice cream. So we tempt them with ice cream to listen to us and hear our voices. I say that a little bit jokingly. We do the ice cream for fun. It's a good, fun tradition. But we do get people to the Capitol because this is an extremely important issue. Now, we also tag on a few other events to drive the traffic to the Capitol. So like the day before, we have our big board of directors meeting, which we invite everybody to. But then we're doing a big YPN karaoke night, and we're doing that. But we're also doing a few legislature meet and greets and doing some different things to bring people in, past presidents breakfast, stuff like that. So while you're here, join us at the Capitol. All it takes is one drink of that Kool-Aid and they're sold.
Or so one lick of the ice cream, as it were.
There you go. Yeah, just a few little chocolate sprinkles. Get them to the Capitol to see the work. And when they see that one big voice, they know that what they're doing is good work and they want to be part of it. Everybody wants to be part of a group. So be part of our group and let's get stuff done. Let's protect property ownership.
Speaking of good work, your YPN chapter that you just mentioned, network, I guess, as it were, network was the network of the year last year for the state. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
And I heard you made a bold pronouncement that you were going to do that. Like that you, when you came in, you told them that, hey, we're going to win this thing, and it didn't sound like initially everybody was believing you.
They weren't at first, but here's what we had. So the YPN network of Oklahoma Realtors is fairly new, just a couple years old, in that what they needed most, just like any of us, is they needed direction. They needed to know what they could do or what they should be doing or why they were important. And they had 90 members, part of the YPN network on the statewide level here, on January 1st of 2017. And we just ended up in 2017 at the end of December, and we're now over 285 members in this network. And these are young professionals that stake their claim as a YPNer, and they say, we want to protect the future of the leadership of OAR. We want to protect the future, the sustainability of the Oklahoma Realtors. And we can only do that by bringing in new people, bringing in new fresh blood that can not only volunteer their time, but be part of our events and show up for these group gatherings at the Capitol and things like that. So YPN, I told them, I said, look, it's again, coming back to that mentality of it takes a village to run this place. I come back to say, okay, we're going to have a board of directors event. Why don't YPN, you be the people that are greeting everybody as they come in and offer them to partake in the YPN wine poll, and they can pay $10 that helps the Oklahoma Housing Foundation. So pair up with an event that's going on at OAR, add the YPN touch to it, bring in another entity, which is our Oklahoma Housing Foundation, bring that all in and do good for all of us as a whole. And they did. So they did blood drives at the beginning of some of our big board meetings, our board meetings that everybody comes in from the state. They did, so they helped out the blood, Oklahoma Blood Institute. They did things that would help others, and in return it helped them. So I mean, it shows that they're doing good things, and that's really what it was. I said, get your name on everything, be part, participate, and get your name on everything, and that will get you Network of the Year.
How's it been at the state level? Because there's a lot that goes on around the country. I think many association executives who engage with trying to grow their YPN also get the feedback of, why are we doing this for the young people? Like, why do they get special treatment and all of that? The time-honored joke of, why don't we start an OPN, old person, all of that.
Yeah.
How has that been in terms of at the state level? Is there an understanding and an appreciation for why YPN was created, which was to really to reach out, engage that younger generation so that, the associations have a long-term healthy, future in front of them, but there can be pushback around that.
Sure. I got to tell you, the YPN, I heard this at an AEI a year or two ago. I don't remember which one, and I don't even remember who said it. So whoever said it and is watching this, kudos to you. I would love to give you credit, but I don't remember who it was that said it. So somebody had said that they were totally rebranding the Young Professionals Network to be called Your Professional Network, so that they were getting away from the word young. Now, there are good things on that, and I think that's brilliant when you're trying to talk the OPNers into being part of it. But really, Young Professionals Network, or you can say young at heart or whatever, but it's about bringing in young. And when I say young, it's not age young. It's, you could be new in the business. You could be 50 years old and new in the business, but you're young in the business. So if you're young in the business and you're getting in and you don't know where to start with the YPN. Start with the YPN because you're young in the business. Now, in the YPN, if you have your more seasoned professionals in the YPN, you're also getting them to where they can, they can help mentor the young ones and say, hey, you know what? First got into the business, the one thing I found is that I should never forget my lockbox key in my car. So always remember to put your lockbox key in your car. And then the young professionals come in and say, it's not a key anymore. It's now an app. Oh, I didn't know I could do it on my phone. And see the connection there, that you always have this whole, this is how I did it. This is how I got my business off the ground. This is what I did to get my, business going. This is what, I remember reaching out to these networking groups, and then the YPNer comes in and says, oh, you can do that online. And, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that online, but it's still good to get out and do it this way. There's a blending of that mentor relationship type stuff. So look at it as, carrying on that legacy. Get involved in YPN, because whatever YPN is the legacy of this association as it grows. So be part of that legacy and help them keep that legacy going forward. So
winding down here, I want to kind of take us in a different direction. You have some health issues that you have to monitor. And so in terms of this business can really, it can turn into 18-hour days, and that whole, mix of professional and personal and, the work-life balance piece that you were talking about earlier, that can become really important. I don't think you mind sharing your journey and how you kind of integrate those two. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. I have type 1 juvenile diabetes and have had it for 25 years. And if I am not on my insulin pump, I have to take insulin shots 4 to 5 times a day just to make it through the day. I also love to eat. So that kind of becomes a problem too, when you have to shoot up and take insulin in order to eat something. But I'm on an insulin pump, and I'm also on a continuous glucose monitor. So it is sending, this little continuous glucose monitor that I wear is sending, it's checking my blood sugar every 5 minutes, and it's sending it to my watch. So it will tell me if I'm on the rise or going low. It will, so I have it on me at all times. An agreement that I made with my husband a while ago was, if you're going to go and do all these great things, you have to take care of yourself first. If you're not going to take care of yourself first, then you need to scale back. And there have been times when I have had to scale back and take care of myself first, because that's the most important thing. Now, you don't have to have that mindset of take care of yourself first. You could be totally healthy, and you could have everything perfect, and you're probably really pretty too, and you have everything going for you, but you still have to take care of yourself. You have to take time to, take care of yourself in your mind, take care of yourself in your body, take care of yourself in anything that you have that, that you've only been given one life. So live it to its fullest and take care of it. So take time to focus on that, because if you focus on feeling good, you can go do anything.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is a position, and it can turn into, where you love it so much, and it really is something that just draws you and becomes a part of you, that, it's not an 8 to 5 job. You have all the activities that go on in the evening. You have lobbying, and advocacy stuff that's ongoing and happens 24 hours a day, it seems like, in today's world. And so there is a moment there. And I think so many of us who maybe don't have to focus in on, taking care of our health, we can lose track of that, putting ourselves first and taking care of us so that we can be good for the association.
Right. Yeah. So take care of yourself. And again, I will admit and own it. I'm human. There are days that I have to pull back and I have to say, hey, you know what? I need to focus. I need to get some rest. I need to focus on what I'm eating and make sure that I'm eating right and properly. And, there's times that you just have to stop, no matter how busy things are or what kind of event you're in the middle of. You have to stop and check your blood sugar, because if you don't, you might die later. I say that jokingly.
Well, but I mean,
serious, but everybody has to
it's hard around the conference season, because the travels in the Realtor Association executive world seem to be really concentrated in spring and kind of that late fall, and so those time frames. I mean, you still have all your responsibilities back home, you have all those things, but the time commitments and the travel and the conferences, and of course they're fun, and they're late nights and early mornings, and good food and bad food and all those things.
Good cocktails.
Yeah. But you have to, you do have to take care of yourself through those times in particularly.
But if you're taking care of yourself on a consistent basis, it's not that hard to do when you're at a conference, because you do it. It's just becomes second nature. And again, it's not, you don't have to have any kind of sickness or disease or anything. It's something that you got to take care of yourself, even if you're perfectly healthy. And a lot of times that means just getting rest, getting sleep. If I'm not taking care of myself, how can I take care of an association?
Absolutely. Couple of ones that I found as I was looking into you. I think there's something to do with Tupperware in your past.
Oh, good grief. Okay, so the Tupperware. Okay, so my parents owned and ran the Tupperware distributorship in Springfield and Joplin, Missouri, in the 90s. And yeah, so Tupperware. Here's the thing about it, though. I hate Tupperware parties. I will never go to one, so don't ask me. Don't ask me. Love Tupperware, love the product, but I will not do the party thing. So don't ask me.
Were you raised on those as a kid, having to go and support the family?
No, actually not terrible. No, it was something my mom did, and then they bought the actual distributorship and ran the distributorships in Southern Missouri for a while there. And so they weren't doing that. But yeah, I remember as a kid, my mom doing Tupperware parties all the time. But hey, I guess I owe it to her. She made a huge business for herself. She's marketed herself well, and she's done well with it. So
is she a mentor?
They don't do it anymore. But
I mean, beyond just the mom piece.
I think every girl is lucky to have a mom, and every girl is, needs their mom. My mom doesn't live here. She lives in Nebraska, and she's lived in Nebraska for, yeah, some would say. So I don't see her often, but yeah, every girl needs a mom. That's for sure.
Every executive needs a mentor. Who are some of your mentors out there? Who's been great to you in this industry?
Obviously we mentioned her, Teresa Hatton, my good friend, but also another extremely good friend of mine has been Carol Steele. Carol Steele. And, this sounds crazy. I've got I've got mentors that are both in the real estate industry. I've got mentors outside of the real estate industry. But I will tell you, the support systems that I have at home have been the biggest thing that has driven me in my career. I can learn something from anyone, and but you have to have a good support system at home, and I'm fortunate that I have that. So that helps too. So I almost hesitate to name somebody because I know I'll probably forget somebody. I'll be like, oh, I should have named that. And so I'll name my besties and Teresa and Carol and and have them out there.
That's safe enough. It is important to find those mentors out there. In closing, I was hoping that you could sign off in your own language. I understand that you and your brother developed your own language as children, and so I was hoping maybe you could just
things you see on the internet.
So tell me about this special language between you and your brother.
Okay, so my brother and I were very creative kids when we were little and created our own language that we would talk behind our parents. And it's really not that hard. You just have to spell everything out. So we called it op language. And you had to put the word op behind every consonant, and you had to spell out the entire word. But you didn't put op behind the vowels. So like if you were going to say my name, you'd have to spell it out. You'd have to spell out Jessica, but you put the word op behind the consonants, but not behind the vowels. So if you were going to say my name, it would be Joppy Sop Sop I Cop A. And then if you had a space, you had to say 10-4. And then if you were done, you had to say 10-4 out. So we would say it would be all of this stuff. My brother, his name is Kurt, spelled with a K, and so he was always copy rop top. And you can't say the vowels, just the consonants. So that's the secret to the language. But the problem was you had to spell it all out.
Systematic. It was as if you were just destined to be an association executive by coming up with that much of a system.
Yeah, good times. Well, you're telling all my deep dark secrets, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, with that, I'll let you then sign us off. So how do we sign off? What's finish with?
Say that again. You're cutting out. Right?
What do we sign off with then in your language? What's our sign off here?
We say 10-4 out.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Jessica. I appreciate it.
This was fun. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Take care.
All right.